What is going on, guys? We're on to round 3 of the Six Nations 2023. We've already done the preview video for the Wales-England game just because of how the teams have all got announced. But Ireland and Italy have both now announced their teams. It's going to be the first game of the weekend. It's set to be a really fun weekend of rugby. In the preview videos, of course, we run through the teams that have been announced for both sides going to be taking part of this game, have a look who's some good picks, some bad picks, think about some team tactics we might be seeing going on in this game, and finally giving a score prediction. If you enjoy this style of video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and let me know what you think of the teams down in the comments section, because it's always fun to see what you guys have to say. Starting out then with Italy, we always tend to start off with the home team. Italy going up against Ireland this week. Now, Italy in the first round had a superb game against France. Now, although they're not really shifting up the team a lot, playing at home saw them have a really big advantage in that game, and I thought they played really well. Last week they played England. And although there were still portions where it felt like we were watching the same Italy team that played France, but there were other sections where the team wasn't quite gelling together or not quite getting things correctly, and was just sort of allowing England to move up the field, and saw them score a couple of tries in that game. So Italy this week will want to settle themselves back down. They're back at home. They saw that game they had against France. Can they replicate it against an Ireland team that's currently on really top form? So starting out in this front row, Fischetti, Nicotera, and Ferrari comes back in. They've done a lot of switching between Ferrari and Riccioni at this point. They've obviously not really got settled on who they want in that starting tight head. They're obviously thinking about it sort of game by game. The sort of line-outs and scrimmaging for Italy is not looking very poor by any means at all in this Six Nations. They're really trying to look to compete, but sometimes powerful front rows. We just saw the England try where they went through the driving maul. We sort of see in the France game, especially on the side where Antonio was, it began to sort of switch around from them. And going up against Ireland is also a tough ask because they've got some very physical forwards on that side. So we'll have to see how this front row gets on. In the lock department, Canone retains his position alongside Federico Ruzza. No change in the lock department. Federico Ruzza last week getting confused to be Padovani because he was out on the wing doing all sorts of incredible stuff. I think Federico Ruzza is absolutely fantastic. He's having another good year this year as well. On to the back row then we have Negri, Lamaro, and of course the second Canone on the team. It's nice to see Lamaro is still in this side because he did pick up a bit of a knock in the game against England. So I'm glad to see that that was all, you know, just a short-term thing. He's back. He's fully fit, ready to go back into this game. Negri was in my team of the week last week. Again, I think Negri's having a very good tournament for Italy so far. I think he's a bit of an underrated, dangerous player in this Italian side. It's hard to sort of pick out players like him when you've got people like Capozzo in that fullback position, but I think he's playing extremely well. On to the halfback partnership then. Stephen Varney still retaining in that scrum half position, and Paolo Garbisi comes back to the Italian starting 15. Nice to see him back in. Not to say Tommy Allen's been playing poor at all. Tommy Allen's been absolutely going for it. I'm glad to see Garbisi back in the side. He plays extremely well. Of course, he was part of that team that went on to beat Wales back in the last Six Nations. He'll be absolutely desperate to get into this side again and see if they can get another big win under their belts. In the centre partnership then, bit of a switch up here. Menoncello moves into the inside centre alongside Brex. Now, Marisi being dropped back onto the bench this week. Menoncello's still not quite settled himself for me. I think Brex is being outstanding at the minute in terms of defensive work. He's all over the park. I'm surprised to see Menoncello move there. I think Marisi's been doing okay. I might have wanted him to have stuck there and just seen Bruno come on in that left wing shirt. Padovani retains in the right wing, and Capozzo in that fullback shirt. Again, having another good game against England. Padovani, not a lot of people talking about Padovani last week. Padovani had some good covered defensive work going on in that backfield. They were really put under the cosh a little bit in that first half from England, and I thought Padovani did very well in terms of being able to deal with that backfield and not letting kicks get beyond him, and really sort of setting an anchor in that backfield. So hopefully he can do the same again. Again, Ireland are another team that enjoy their kicking. We saw in that game against France, so in that second half especially, some of those kicks going over the top, little grubber kicks. You've got to be in position when that Ireland team comes a knocking, because there can be 50-22s. They can make massive territory if you're out of position just slightly. So hopefully we'll see another good game from him. But not a lot of changes to talk about, but the changes that have been made. Really glad to see Garbisi back in. Like I said, I think I might have kept Marisi on that inside centre and just moved Menoncello to the bench and used him as a sub that could have either come on the wing or that centre position, but that for me would have probably been the only change. In terms of the replacements then, Luca Bigi comes in alongside Zani and Riccioni, of course. swapping with Ferrari. They've done that a little bit across this tournament so far. The rest of the replacement forwards then, Iachese will be coming on in that second half, I'm sure, for the lock department for Italy. Pettinelli comes in the 20 shirt. Now, no Jake Pellegrini. I believe he's picked up a shoulder injury after last week and is meant to be going surgery again for that poor lad. He just can't quite ever seem to recover from the injuries for long enough to get back into this team. I was looking forward to see so much more from Jake Pellegrini, but Pettinelli's still a good player. Now, one of the things to talk about here with this Italian team, they've gone for the 5-3. I think that's a really big call against an Ireland team that have clearly showed off against the current champions of France that their forwards are fit. They're going to play a full 80. They're going to go through the forwards if available. Tackle rate for Ireland, not necessarily the best, but their tackles are being made hard throughout that game. I'm not sure how much I would rely on the idea of doing a 5-3 if the Italian forwards are going to be able to maintain the full 80. I might have liked to have seen the 6-2 split here and just try to back your own forwards. Hopefully by them going for the 5-3, it means Italy are going to hopefully keep the ball in hand, play a bit more expansively. Don't give the ball back to Ireland. Make them defend you. Make sure you're covering your own players in terms of the breakdown situation. Don't give away those jackal penalties and just try and use some of your wingers, your people like Capuozzo, to try and make more meters. And hopefully it'll be a good move for them. But I think personally I would have gone for that 6-2 split for me. Replacement backs then, Fusco, Morisi and Tommy Allen. So your coverage there is pretty good across the board. Maurice can come on in that. I think he can play wing or centre, to be fair. But if he came on that centre, you can move Mencello back out onto the wing. Fusco is going to, of course, come on in your scrum half position, and Tommy Allen there. Maybe they'll not play Garbisi for the whole game. If he's sort of just come back into this team, maybe you'll be seeing him play, I don't know, 50, 55 minutes. Give Tommy Allen a bit of time. He's the one that's been, having a bit of a feel for how this tournament's going. More time on the field compared to him. Maybe you bring Tommy Allen a little bit earlier than you probably would have seen last year. But not a lot of changes to talk about for this Italian team, and I'm really hoping we get to see another performance like we got to see against France and really put Ireland up against it. Talking of Ireland then, let us move on to talk about this Irish team that's just becoming such a dangerous side now, holding out that #1 spot. They've extended away from France. They beat the Six Nations champions last year, and they're looking good doing it. One of the things that will be ever so slightly concerning, picking up a couple of injuries along the way now. We saw people like Sheehan go out, Tyke Burns picked up his knock. James Gibson-Park out now. So the depth of Ireland beginning to be tested slightly in some of those key areas, but they've got so many good players to just fill in those spots. It doesn't really feel like this team is dropping down at all, and they are playing such good rugby. I mean, the game they played against France, coming away with a bonus point. I never thought that was going to happen when we were doing all the predictions and the preview videos for that. So they're just showing off beyond what I even expected Ireland to do. Really looking forward to seeing them in this game. Starting out of the front row then, Andrew Porter goes in alongside Kelleher and Finlay Bealham. Andrew Porter improving dramatically. One of the things a lot of people talk about in some of these preview videos is players stepping up between rounds. Now, Andrew Porter is regarded as a very good prop. I did think in the first round he didn't necessarily have the best game against Wales. I've spoken a couple of times about the amount of penalties he gave away in that game. But I think it's important to point out when players are renowned for being good players, people just think they have a bad game. I think it shows a better quality of player if you can have a bad game, bounce back and dramatically improve. I don't think he gave away any penalties against France. Not 100% sure about that. That's that. Go look that up if you want to. But did get his try. Thought he played well all game. And it was so nice to see the step back up. Clearly analysed his game. Wasn't good enough. Made the step up. Top performance. That's what I like to see from players between weeks and games. Finlay Bealham as well. Some lovely little hands just to do that little pop pass off to Keenan that we got to see last week as well. Finlay Bealham's really trying to stand up now in this team in that tight head. Got to make the most of it with Tyke Furlong out. Make the most of having that position, and he's doing that at the minute. Lock department then. Ian Henderson comes in, of course. Tyke Byrne picking up his injury last week. James Ryan taking over the captaincy because there'll be no Sexton for this game. I had a chat with some of my friends this week about whether Sexton would actually be starting this one, because I thought maybe they would want to do a bit of bubble wrapping around Sexton, keep him safe. But if you're going to have a game without Sexton, this is probably the one you'll be leaning towards most. And Ross Byrne's been performing well, to be fair. So James Ryan taking over captaincy, has done captaincy quite a few times. He's very good in terms of the captaincy as well. In terms of the back row then, bit of a switch up here. Keelan Doris moves to that #6 shirt. He's been playing so well at 8. Both 2 rounds, he's been doing extremely well, moving back to 6. I kind of think I prefer Rene, to be fair now. I've always thought I really enjoyed seeing him at 6, but moving to 8 recently, moving back to 6 for this game. But it does allow you now to have 3 massive players in that back row. Keelan Doris, Van der Fleer, Jack Conan. That's a really devastating back row in terms of ball carrying and just outright run forward attacking ability. Who do you mark? Who do you mark in that instance if you're a defence? That's 3 really tough players. You probably want to be committing 2 men to almost each of them to just guarantee that tackle. This is a dangerous set of back rows. I'm looking forward to see what they do. Not even to talk about the tackle rate. I mean, we talk about Keelan Doris and Josh Van der Fleer. They've been in the top 90s, if not 100% tackle rate, with numerous tackles for both weeks. So bringing both them on in that, as alongside Jack Cohn is also a big ball carrier, that could be a devastating back row for Italy. We'll have to see how they handle that one. In the halfback partnership then, as we saw, already been speaking about injuries and people missing and stuff, Craig Casey comes in that scrum half position alongside of Ross Byrne. We got to see this partnership towards the end of that France game. They switched up the dynamic a bit, and we saw so many of those lovely kicks, territory gain for Ireland, grubber kicks going through, making massive meters, really putting France on the back foot. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get to see a lot of that. Italy, like I sort of said about the game against England, Padovani was doing pretty well in that backfield, but there is the opportunity to hit grass, get some bounces. And from seeing that and seeing the way Ireland are playing, I wouldn't be surprised if the kicking game for territory is going to be another big one. Just put them under pressure, and Ireland are back in their defence so much recently in terms of the breakdown, getting jackal penalties. It's all about kicking your opponents back to their 22. They're either going to kick the ball back to you, or you just back your own defence and get a penalty and take 3. I do really like the setup they've gone for in this one. In the centre partnership then, Bundee Aki gets his first start, I believe, of this Six Nations, because McCloskey's been holding that inside centre out, and Ringrose alongside him. This is a partnership we've seen a lot in the history of Ireland for the last few years. Bundee Aki and Gary Ringrose, we know what they both bring. They both work really well together. Bundee Aki's going to be going up. They probably will have seen what England were doing against Italy last week through Ollie Lawrence. Bundee Aki, similar style, he's going to run absolutely through you, but then bringing on someone like Stuart McCloskey towards the end of the game, just general size. Once players are tired, too many tackles made. We saw Ollie Lawrence last week getting through that line after enough hard runs. Bringing someone like Stuart McCloskey on later, I can see gaps potentially opening up in that centre department. And then finally the back 3, James Lowe, Mac Hansen and Hugo Keenan. Player of the tournament? Potentially. I mean, we're only round 2 in, but he's putting his hand up, isn't he? He's certainly got to be looking for a nomination. But absolutely fantastic, Hugo Keenan. I hope he keeps on top of his game. Something else to talk about here. This is a good Ireland team, right? This is not a B team Ireland team. It's so nice to be seeing teams now having the respect for Italy. They know they can win games. They know they'll bring a game to you. No one's messing around. This is a good Ireland team, so it's nice to see that respect coming in. I really hope Italy show this good Ireland team a really good game. On to the replacements then. In terms of the replacement front row, we have Dan Sheehan, Dave Kilcoyne and Tom O'Toole. So Dan Sheehan back in. Talking a bit before about injuries and testing that depth of squad. Nice to see him back in this side. I did think he was going to be ruled out for a lot of the Six Nations. I'm surprised to see him back so soon into this team, but nice to see him there. An absolutely top player, but obviously coming back from that injury, maybe it's the right move not to have him start in this game. Let Kelleher continue on and then bring Dan Sheehan on again. He's a fast hooker. He can absolutely maybe open up in with some tired forwards in that second half. I don't think that's a bad move. Rest of the replacement forwards, Ryan Baird and Peter O'Mahony. Ryan Baird, another one we don't feel like we've seen a lot from. I'm really looking forward to seeing him get back into the side. He's a fast man as well. We're really beginning to see the fitness adapt now in this Ireland team. There's a lot of fast players getting involved with the forwards as well. They're not just about power. They can make those breaks and run hard. So I see Ryan Baird back in there. And then finally in the replacement backs, Conor Murray, Jack Crowley going to have a stab at this game as well. Nice to see. And finally Stuart McCloskey, as we've already mentioned, in that centre partnership at some point. So overall, a really good Ireland team. I'm really glad to be seeing a pretty fully fledged Ireland team. And I even quite like the changes they've made. The changes they've made actually sort of show a slightly different game tactic. Maybe this will be something we might be seeing in some of those pool stages in the World Cup. Maybe more shifting towards a team like this. Looking forward to see how this team gets on. In terms of a score prediction then, what do we think? Well, Italy played extremely well against France in that one that they played at home. Going up against Ireland, they're on good form. They're playing well and the team is working well together. I've still got to back Ireland for this one. I think this game might actually get a little bit away from Italy towards that second half. I'm going to say Ireland. I'm going to say a bit more than some people might think. I'm going to say Ireland by 18. is going to be my prediction. But if you've been doing the fantasy along the way, you'll know that my prediction's not always the best. I'm certainly not winning the predictor series. So make sure you do drop down in the comment section your predictions for this game and what you think the final score might be. And make sure you have locked in your team and your predictions on the Super Brew before this game kicks off on Saturday. I hope you've all enjoyed this one today, guys. I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.